All right. Happy Saturday night. How's everybody doing? What's up, Special Ray? I love that avatar. Hey, Mars needs Max. What's going on, everybody? Hey, Doom Guy. Matt Cave, congratulations. You'll like this pack, Matt Cave. It's really cool. So Matt Cave, just for those that follow Echo Base Network, Matt Cave just won a Star Wars pack of cards. Hopefully, get a really good autograph card in there. Let's see, who else do we have in here? We've got um, King's Advisors. What's up? What's up, Caleb? Vengar, Valar Morgulis. Happy Saturday night, everybody. Clifton 3D. What's up, Clifton 3D? All right. So I want to get right into it. Mr. Bubba, how's it going, bud? Seems like everybody on here is, with the exception of Special Ray, has won something. Special Ray, where are you in the United States? Where are you located? What's up, Mattuine? Nice to meet you in Nashville at the ICCC. Maybe we'll show some photos, even though it's Star Wars focused. But Special Ray, you're in Kentucky. You're not far from me, Tennessee. Evil Dick. I'm not even going to repeat that. All right. Happy Saturday night. So I want to start off with a little bit of House of the Dragon season 2 casting news for those that may be keeping up with it, may not. So let me go ahead and show you guys some casting news, and tell me if you don't see it, by the way. So House of the Dragon season 2, they're actually in Leavesden Studios right now filming Blood and Cheese, the infamous scene of Blood and Cheese. It's going to be pretty hard to watch. But we've also got casting news. So back in April, they reported that Mark Staubert was cast as Cheese, and Mark Staubert is the rat catcher who knows the tunnels of King's Landing, very well. And the big, burly, violent Blood has also been cast now, and it will be played by none other than Sam C. Wilson, who is in Hannah and Dodger, will be playing Blood. So there's Sam C. Wilson. I think he just posted. Yeah, there's a shot of Sam growing the beard out. You got to grow these beards out when you're on Game of Thrones, right? Everybody seems to have a really, really good beard game going on. So wanted to kind of get into a little bit of Blood and Cheese. I don't want to give anything away of, specifically for those that have not read Fire and Blood or don't know the scenes, but the Blood and Cheese angle. What do you guys think? I mean, do you think that's going to be in the early part of the season? The casting news. Let me go ahead and show you guys also the character who's playing Cheese. Since I didn't show his face, I showed Sam Wilson, who'll be playing Blood. So let's see here. Mark Staubert. So there's Mark Staubert, who I've seen him in, a lot of these are obviously British actors. And so they, they're not always in a content that is easily found in the United States. But there's a shot of him in something called Beaten. But I did see him in Clink, but I did not see Line of Duty or the Long Shadow. But from what I remember of him, he's a good actor. All these actors that are cast in Game of Thrones tend to be, strong actors with theater backgrounds. And so they also have cast someone named James Doherty. I don't know James Doherty. He will be playing a character called Clay, spelled Cley. Just from some things I've been reading, without knowing what the role is going to be, I think he's, he was in Outlander and he did, I think, some voice work for Elden Ring. So I think Clay is going to be somehow involved with what goes on with Cregan Stark and Winterfell in the North. That's just my gut based on the spelling of the name Clay and the history of that name kind of within Westeros. So I believe we're going to see him up north. The other actors that have already been cast, Abu Bakar Salim, I think he's going to be somehow tied in with the Sea Snake, Corvus Valerian. And then one of the most important casting roles for season 2 is Gail Rankin, who will be playing Alice Rivers. And that's going to get into a lot of the magic witchcraft part of Harrenhal. And so Gail Rankin is a very important casting, and she's going to have some really interesting scenes with Daemon Targaryen, and that's all I'll say about that. But so that's very interesting. What do you guys think about some of the casting, the faces? Do they, for those that read the books, do they? Is that who you envision them being? What do you think? Also, how do you feel about the fact that pretty much everyone that's cast in Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or from the UK or in Europe? They I think the only American that really has been cast was Peter Dinklage as Tyrion, who, by the way, killed it. I mean, for a lot of people, Tyrion's their favorite character in the whole Song of Ice and Fire series. So, um, what do you think about that? I'm interested to see how quickly they get into the Blood and Cheese storyline. Is there any lead up to it? I think who was it that posted here? Vinger, a son for a son. I think they got to get to it pretty quick. I mean, for those of you that have not read the books, but you saw season 1, season 1 ended with Rhaenyra's 2 sons being sent, and she loses a son to Vagar, and so there's going to be retribution, right? There's going to be revenge, especially where Daemon Targaryen's involved, and Rhaenyra's ready to go to war. So it's kind of cool. I'm very interested. Like, at what point, Mr. Bubba says maybe early to mid-season. They're only doing 8 episodes. They have a lot of stuff to cover. I got a feeling they're going to get to Blood and Cheese pretty quick. Vinger says episode 2. I think you're right. I think the events around Blood and Cheese are going to be in episode 2. That's Special Ray. If you haven't watched Game of Thrones, it just depends on what type of content you like. It's kind of a Succession meets Excalibur, King Arthur, but it's hard to really label. It's got a lot of characters that one season you hate that character, the next season you love them. The characters are very fleshed out. It's got a lot of pseudo English history involved. If you understand the history of the War of the Roses, and various kings and queens and monarchs in history. Westeros, doubles as the Saxon lands, which became England, post King Alfred. So, I think it just depends. It's not for everybody. I have friends that don't care about Game of Thrones, and I have friends that love it. So, I happen to think it's one of the best things on TV. I thought House of the Dragon brought a lot of fans back. I think, some of the best stuff that I've watched the last couple of years, minus the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, the first 6 seasons were the best television I've seen. Cinematically, it's amazing. House of the Dragon brought a lot of people back. So, I think that if you want something good to watch, Queen's Gambit's one of the best movies that I've seen, on streaming. Netflix, the streaming providers typically don't do movies well at all when they're not released in the theaters. The content like The Gray Man, Mark Greaney does an amazing job writing those books. I didn't think Netflix did a good job with the movie at all. Red Notice. There's there's a lot of movies that just go to streaming. They're not good. Queen's Gambit was, I think, a limited series, but it felt like a movie. It was amazing. I loved Queen's Gambit, but House of the Dragon, 1923, an offshoot of Yellowstone, is great. Just depends on what you like. I think everybody has different things they like. I was talking to people this weekend. My two boys want to go see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the animated movie, and I've already heard people that love it and people that don't like it. So teach their own. Matt Cave, haven't read the books. You know, I think you don't have to read the books to enjoy the series. Obviously, when you read books, just like when people read Harry Potter, and in the series, things change. Characters either left out or killed off or not killed off, and then people get upset because it wasn't the books. And Game of Thrones is certainly that. Look no further than a character called Lady Stoneheart, which is very important in the books. But Catelyn Stark, she did not have the same fate of Lady Stoneheart in the book. So it just depends. I don't think you have to read the books. My co-host Sterling, who's not with us tonight, um, he hasn't read the books, but he loved House of the Dragon, liked Game of Thrones. So I think it just teach their own. Um, Matt Twain, British actors. Um, the more common in American shows than Americans in British shows. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm okay with at there. If you go to London and you go to the West End and you go to the theater, it's some great acting, and the acting. Even Evil Dick, who was on here, we were talking about David Tennant, who was Doctor Who. He had a series called Broadchurch. There's so many shows and content that some of the things that were filmed. I think a series called Trapped was in Iceland. Was great. So I don't have a problem with it. You just cast the best actors, right? I think someone mentioned on here Superman. Henry Cavill. I don't think anybody cared that he was British. Cast the best actors for the roles. I think that's where a lot of people get upset is they feel like that there's some sort of agenda that goes on with some of these casting, that they're trying to focus on anything other than the story, and that's where you get into trouble. You know, make a good story. But Mars Needs Max is it jumping that far ahead? Um, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Maybe the blood and cheese. Um, but let me know if you have a specific question around that. Um, Rhaenys, the queen that never was. Yeah, Vinger. Um, that's going to be a great scene. What ends up happening with Rhaenys and Meleys, her dragon. And I'm going to show some shots in a second. So I'm going to give a little warning, but I'm not going to say what they are, but you're probably going to see some things. And Vinger, you're going to know what they are, but other people may not. So, but yeah, they are filming right now. So they're filming at Leavesden, and they specifically talked about filming the blood and cheese scene, so that we know that's happening. Well, they could be filming out a sequence. So I was going to say we know that's happening early in the season, but we don't know officially that it is. They could film out a sequence, and they're probably maneuvering around the writer strike, even though they're filming in the UK, which is under different rules. But I think some of these writers don't want to get blacklisted from working in the States. Although there's a lot of work now overseas, especially in the UK. So, Matt Cave Gaming says some local theaters near me played a few of the season premieres of Game of Thrones. That would be really cool to see. Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. They're going to eventually do other series. Aegon's Conquest, the Jon Snow series that we'll talk about in a second. But seeing that in the theater would be really cool because I have a theater room. I'm lucky enough to have a 120-inch screen and projector, and I can do 4K. And so the ability to see this content that they put out on a bigger screen. I've had friends come over that are used to watching Game of Thrones either on an iPad or on a 50-inch TV, and then we sit them down and they watch it in Dolby Atmos, and it blows your mind how great and the attention to detail that you see. And I've noticed the same thing with Taylor Sheridan. within Yellowstone, specifically 1923, the attention to detail on these sets and locations is second to none. I read the other day that the season one of 1923 cost $22 million an episode to film, and they said it exceeded House of the Dragon by a few million. So you're talking about, filming a season based on those numbers. That's a movie. A season is a big budget tentpole movie in terms of cost. Um, so interesting stuff. Marzi's Max reading Old Republic right now. I'm assuming you're talking about Star Wars. So Old Republic is cool. Um, Darth Revan. There's been rumors before James Mangold was announced to take over doing an Origins of the Jedi and the Sith film. There have been rumors about Keanu Reeves playing. I thought it was Darth Revan, but nothing's happened with that. So we'll see. I think someone asked him some more about it, and he said, he was open to it. He didn't shut it down, but I think Keanu is also going to be one of those people that's going to want to see the script and the director. He's got so much money. He didn't have to do something that he thinks is not good. So, Mars Needs Max. I've been wanting to watch Broadchurch. Pretty good. Trapped was awesome. These actors that you see in some of these things overseas, a lot of them end up, within the Game of Thrones world, right? They, that's like landing, a Marvel or Star Wars gig over here. It's pretty big to land that. But Dunk and Egg, they're going to call that series. That's a series of novellas, The Hedge Knight, that George R. R. Martin wrote. For those that don't know, it's going to be a little lighter in tone than what was out there with Game of Thrones and even House of the Dragon. It's going to be about Sir Duncan the Tall and Aegon, who they call Egg because his head is shaved, bald. And it's kind of like The Mandalorian with Grogu and Din Djarin and like The Last of Us with Joel and Ellie. It's a protector and this young kid traveling throughout Westeros. And so I think it's going to have some violent moments, but it's also going to be a little bit different tone that they're trying to strike. So they're trying to bring in they're world building. So they're trying to bring in more of a little bit of a different audience in addition to the current fans that they know will be there at least from the beginning. So it will be called, Vinger's right, it will be called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I read where they didn't want to do Dunk and Egg because they thought people wouldn't understand the subject matter if they saw the title Dunk and Egg. So it's going to be called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And that I think that's a good choice. Matt Cave Gaming, you have your 4K projector and theater system. I did see some shots of your man cave. The pretty cool. I need to get with you on. I'm not a fan of these smaller versions of the arcades that they're selling now, the vintage stuff. I want the real thing. I want the original size arcades. I've got a few that I'm looking at. I'm probably going to buy the Tron arcade, but I want to do my homework. I want to make sure the screens are up to date, and some of these people are refurbing these arcades and doing a great job. So Matt Cave, I definitely need to, when we do another 1980s stream coming up in a few weeks, we're going to spend a little bit more time on arcade games, being that they were so big in the 80s. I want to have you on, and maybe you can show some shots of the man cave. Yes, the 1-Up Special Ray. I don't like the 1-Ups. Am I the only one? Like a lot of people have the 1-Ups. I don't like them. I like the full size arcades. I don't like, and they really screwed up the Marvel Capcom 3 1-Up. I heard that people were pissed about that, but anyway, so yeah, let me I want to share you a couple other things. So in regards to House of the Dragon, let me share my screen here again. I want to give you guys a little bit more information. So there is an event coming up, and it's called Superhero Comic Con and Car Show 2023. And lo and behold, Amelia Clark, the Mother of Dragons, Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, the Breaker of Chains, Queen of the Andals. So she's going to be in San Antonio July 7th, 8th, and 9th. And so is Kit Harington. So we're going to have Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke appearing together for the first time since Game of Thrones, and that's pretty big. And for those of you that like some of these other people that are going to be appearing, I'm a big Katie Sackhoff fan. I think while I had major issues with Mandalorian season 3, that's for another channel and another discussion. But Katie Sackhoff, I'm a big fan. Going back to Battlestar Galactica when she did the reboot of Battlestar and she played Starbuck, she was great. She played in Pitch Black, The Chronicles of Riddick. She had a role in that. She's been in Longmire, the series that was initially on, I think, USA Network, but then it moved to Netflix. She played Vic in Longmire. She was great in that. And then she's Bo-Katan now. She's really worked her butt off. She's great with the fans. So I look forward to meeting Katie. And then you got Ming-Na Wen, who's Fennec Shand from Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. Elizabeth Olsen, who is Scarlet Witch. Andrew Garfield, I think I read where this is like his first con to do. So Spider-Man's Andrew Garfield. And then you've got Brie Larson from Captain Marvel and Fast and the Furious. And Haley Steinfeld. Evil Dick and I were talking about this. The Hawkeye series, I didn't really like it on Disney Plus at all. But I really liked her in it. I thought she carried it. And I like Jeremy Renner. Mayor of Kingstown, I really like him in that. I've liked him in the Avengers. I just think he's a supporting character like Ant-Man. I don't need a whole show based on Hawkeye, and I don't need a whole movie series based on Ant-Man. And if you're going to do that, do it like the first movie where you keep the budget low and it's a contained story instead of doing Quantumania, which was awful. But so these are some of the people that are going to be there. But look, it all comes down to Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington. I mean, this is going to be a big event, and we're going to be there. Kind of excited to see some of the cars there as well. So this is going to be July 7th, 8th, and 9th. So if anybody has a chance to get out there, it's going to be at the Freeman Expo Hall in San Antonio. I will be there Friday, Saturday, and early Sunday, probably leaving out early Sunday. But what do you guys think about that? Are you guys fans of the cons? Legendary Tron, hey, it was great to meet you in Nashville and meet your brother. Have fun with that Jedi Survivor game. Hope you have fun playing it. I did see one of your streams the other day. You were playing, I think you're playing Diablo. But so great to have you here, Legendary Tron. It was great to meet you. I think we met at the panel right after Ian McDermott did an interview. So that was kind of cool. Listen to Ian McDermott, a.k.a. Darth Sidious, the Emperor from Star Wars. How much are the autographs, Vinger? So I have like 5 of them lined up. So I get the autograph costs confused with the photo ops. The autographs maybe are like a little north of 100. I'm not really sure, but the photograph, the photo op with Kit and Emilia is like $350, something like that. I think it's like half of that for Emilia. So I think I've got photos with Emilia by herself, and then Emilia and Kit. I have to look and see if I have one with Kit by himself. But I've got Katie Sackhoff, and I think I've got Andrew Garfield or Elizabeth Olsen. I have to check and see. I've got five of them lined up as part of my VIP pass. So it's somewhere around there. I think it's like in the autographs are probably a little bit over 100. They're not cheap. But what I'm wondering is, can you bring your own stuff for them to sign? So I would like to have them sign this. Sign Game of Thrones poster, and then if I get Kit Harington and Emilia to sign it, then I save it, and then I find, Cersei, I find Tyrion, Sansa, Brienne, Arya. So get the rest of them, and then I have a nice little collector's. This artist, it is John Caroni, JoeCorroney.com. He's a great artist, and this poster is labeled "The Son of Ice and Fire. I'm the shield that guards the realms of men." Really cool poster. I had to buy it. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if they'll. You get to some of these shows and they don't let you. You have to get the autographs of what's on the table, and then other ones are really cool about letting you bring up stuff to sign. I think it depends on the actor or the artist, and then depends on the event. But I don't know. Not really sure. Yeah, Venger, I know you're in the UK, but I had to ship I had to ship your giveaway to you that you won, and I didn't realize the cost of it. No, it's not your fault. Um, but look, you won. That's why you get on these streams when a new channel, a young channel like us, it's growing, trying to grow. You know, get on the channel, get on these streams, and you end up winning stuff. So you never know. We may give away something again tonight. You never know. So that's why you have to stick around to the end. So let's I want to show you guys something else. So we were talking about these events. So this is kind of what I want to do at the San Antonio con. So let me know if you think that covering these events when we go to this one, it's July 7th, so we're a month away. If you guys would be interested in seeing some videos or content around the San Antonio event. So if you guys can see that, so this was Nashville's ICCC this year. Got to meet Echo Base, Nick and Coach, great guys. Got to meet Mattuine. Got to meet that junk man. That was entertaining getting to meet him. And then met legendary Tron. Met uh, let's see, I met Deborah, and I met everybody I think around Echo Base. So there was R2 and Chopper. The Chopper remotes, literally all the arms came out and everything. It was kind of cool. Um, then we had a girl that she was really impressive. She was dressed up as Hera Syndulla from Rebels, and we're gonna see Hera again in Ahsoka, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is the wife of Ewan McGregor. So she was pretty cool. The guy next to her, was I missing his character in Rebels or something? The blind guy? I don't remember him. But anyway, they were cool. And then had to take a picture with R2. I want one of these R2 units. I don't know if they even sell them. The guy was there, he was behind me with the remote, kind of like a drone. They had sets around behind, like you see, like where kids could go up and take photos at on Star Wars sets that were built. There's Charlie Cox, aka Daredevil, at his autograph session. And so there's what I was talking about, just signing the photos that are already there. So that was one set of photos, and let's look at one more section before we wrap up there. So there's Boba Fett. This guy had a really cool Boba Fett outfit, so I thought he did a good job. He or she, you know what? It could have been a female in there. But they did a good job. Then this is Hannah Klein, cosplayer. So Hannah, I believe, goes by the Hannah Klein. So look Hannah up on Twitter. She's got various social media pages. I mean, it took work to get that. She had pieces to that, so she was really cool. We talked to her for a few minutes, and she didn't have as many issues with some of the recent Star Wars series shows that we had, so we had to be nice and say, yeah, it's great. There's Bo Katan. So Vincent D'Onofrio, Private Pyle from Full Metal Jacket, and Kingpin from Daredevil and Daredevil Reborn. And then come on, guys, Ian McDermott, Darth Sidious, aka the Emperor. I've got the actual photos here. These were just kind of shots of my phone of the photos. And then Sala himself, Jonathan Rhys Davies. He's a character, man. I asked him about being a British actor or European, and I think he lived in Tangiers or whatever, but doing Game of Thrones, and he said the scripts aren't good enough. Like, okay. And this Deborah Ann Wall, who is in Daredevil, and for those of you, she was also in a great series called True Blood, played Jessica. And then here's Chopper again. So those were just some of the shots from ICC Nashville. Are you guys interested in seeing some content when we go to San Antonio? And maybe we do some live streaming from the con. I'm open to that. So you guys let me know. The ICC was a really good event. For those of you who can make it to Nashville, it was really cool. And I think this one in San Antonio sounds like it's gonna be a big event. So I'm leaning towards doing some videos, shortened videos, and then also live streaming from the event. And I don't know. I mean, with Amelia Clark there and Kit Harington, that brings up a question of, do you think it's a coincidence that Amelia Clark and Kit Harington are all of a sudden showing up together in July, very close to San Diego Comic-Con, right? We've done videos where we thought they were going to announce the Jon Snow series, but there's been some stuff that's come out that has made me question that. And, I think I want to show you guys real quick a comment from the head of drama at HBO. And she reported, she did an interview, or she made a comment recently. This is from Yahoo. So May 31st. So I want to give credit to Yahoo, Michael Walsh. So recently, HBO's head of drama, Francesca Orsi, gave a brief update on the status of the Jon Snow series spinoff. And here's what she said. We're just working deeply to get it in shape for a potential green light. But at this point, no determination on whether it can go all the way. I think you could read into that. My co-host and I were talking about it. He felt like it was not good the way she worded that. I wouldn't read too much into that. I feel like that with the writer's strike, maybe what she knows everything is pushed back. And if the scripts aren't complete yet, if they're still kind of putting that together, then things stopped. And we do know from George R. R. Martin that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms has been shelved. Like, as of right now, it's going to move forward, but nothing's happening until the strike is over. And unfortunately, if you look at some of the major trades and some of the people that are in the know, it looks like we're about to get a Directors Guild strike. So, I think everything is going to be pushed back. So I think that's what she's saying. And she's saying is, look, we don't have it ready yet. It's and HBO is notorious for not greenlighting things until they're ready. So I'm cool with it. Get it right. I mean, HBO is notorious for, like, not putting things out until they're ready. And but back in the summer, Kit Harington was in an event, and he spoke and said the same thing that he told to Entertainment Weekly. He said, where's Jon Snow at the end of the events of Game of Thrones? And here's Kit Harington says, I think if you asked him, he would have felt he got off lightly. At the end of the show, when we find him in that cell, he's preparing to be beheaded, and he wants to be. He's done. The fact he goes to the wall is the greatest gift and also the greatest curse. He's got to go back up to the place with all this history and live out his life thinking about how he killed Dany. Live out his life thinking about Ygritte dying in his arms. Live out his life thinking about how he hung Ollie, and live out his life thinking about all this trauma. So he's not in a good place. And but that he finds that interesting. And so that's where we're going to find Jon Snow when this series starts. We're going to find a broken man in the north, probably with Tormund with him, and there's going to be a plot device that pulls Jon Snow back in. And so, um, I think they're going to get there. This is an IP for Warner, now Max, HBO, Warner's, that just like Harry Potter, just like Lord of the Rings, they don't have enough IPs to not capitalize on the ones they have that are just money makers. And so, I think that, what we're looking at is, you know, we're looking at the strike slowing things down. And I think that Francesca Orsi is just being diplomatic, right? She's just trying to be careful with her words because there's a lot of moving parts. Let's see. Venger says Kit Harrington will just become a father for the second time a few months before then. You talking about in real life? He's second baby. It's about to be born. Second child. I think so. Um, yeah, he's married to Rose Leslie, who played Ygritte and the Game of Thrones series. Um, yeah. Mars Needs Max says, Sundown, how do you feel about the writer's strike and where do you think they should meet? Look, the majority of the writers, 90+%, are living paycheck to paycheck. They're blue collar workers. A lot of them have other jobs. So they get an opportunity to write and they get put in a writer's room for a week or two or three and they get paid for that. They don't get health care benefits, right? They get paid what little bit of money they make and then they send them off. And what happens is a show or a series, if it moves to green light, they'll have a showrunner that usually is the lead of writing, like Ryan Condal was for House of the Dragon. So he had George R. Martin's blessing. They pick a couple of writers to go with them. And so maybe the writers' rooms, which I think initially you'd say, and I'll talk about the union in a second, Special Ray, because I have some thoughts on the unions. Unions unions are hurting. I think have done a lot of damage to this. Just like they're equally as I think as culpable as the studios, but to the people that are looking for representation, they feel like they can't fight the fight without the union. So it's a double edged sword. But um, so these writers get sent home, and there's a few writers that move on. And what's happened is just like when the internet launched with the streaming providers, the studios said, well, we can't pay you like we did when we had shows like Seinfeld and Friends and these things. Baywatch, it launches all over the globe, and you get residuals possibly for a long time because you were a writer for multiple seasons on that show. And with the streaming, they tried to reset that, so they didn't want to pay. And they're saying, well, it's about subscribers. It's not necessarily about the distribution globally over a long period of time. Although what happens, we look up and you see in some of the streaming, like when Friends was rolled out on, was it Peacock or was it one of the streaming providers? They go on Netflix, and these older shows, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, still making the list. And so, are those people getting paid? Are they getting paid when those shows that they wrote on 4 years ago, 5 years ago, are in the top 10 of a major streaming provider that has billions of dollars in revenue? I don't know. So, but what's also happened is like what we've seen with Lucasfilm is that they form writers' rooms full of people that, especially Paramount. I think, Paramount, I think isn't that where Friends was put, even though it was an NBC show? Anyway, it's all about the licensing, and they buy the rights to distribute this after it's off the air. Mars Needs Max said, you have the initial writers, but then you have the on-set writers, and they're not being paid a residual income for the extended budget. So you have these story groups, and this is a little bit of a separate issue. And there's people now that are brought in that don't even know anything about the content that they're writing about. So they get, Kathy Kennedy brought on a writer's room for Lucasfilm. They weren't even Star Wars fans. And so, I don't know how much the writers' rooms, I think, have really hurt. They've really hurt, the way that they're being used by the studios is really hurt the quality of content, the writing. It's so poor. And I think you also, we were all excited to get all these options at our fingertips to be able to cut the cable. and cut the cord for cable and satellite providers. And now you've got all these streaming providers that are losing money. It's not sustainable and it's not quality. And so, I know some people may love, I know you guys know if you watch my prior stream, I had Evil Dick on and he was on the reality show Big Brother. But we talk all the time about a lot of this reality content is just garbage and it's not reality anyway. It's manufactured. And so, the studios, right now they're like, look, we'll just pump out reality content. We don't have scripts and we don't have famous people and it gets ratings or it gets, streaming views, minutes watched. So that's why you see them paying Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey and they put out Love is Blind, season 5, season 4, whatever. And it ends up in the top 3 or 4 of Netflix. And I don't know about you guys, it's horrible. It's horrible to watch. But so I think the writers deserve, look, an honest wage, an honest seat at the table. And yeah, Karen, I don't know her last name. She's suing Lucasfilm. She was brought in for The Acolyte. They had her turn down another job that she was going to have for at least a year. And she has I believe she has a memorandum of understanding. And in a court, that's going to hold up. I know enough about memorandums of understanding for being involved in sports with coaches. You get that memorandum of understanding, a lot of coaches will get those, and the final contract may take 6 months to a year to get finally executed and wrapped up, but they have a memorandum of understanding, and they're able to work with that. So she got a memorandum of understanding, started working on that, and then they called her and told her she wasn't needed. And she's going to win that. They're going to settle. Yeah. So anyway, I hope they work it out. But the Directors Guild coming on the heels of the writers' strike is not good. That's why they were initially saying that Mandalorian season 4 was going to start filming in October, November. There's no way that's happening. So I'm excited that House of the Dragon is filming right now, because what may happen is, they may get that thing pushed through, even though it's going to take a long time to do the effects. But there's going to be a lot of people that have time on their hands that are going to be able to work on that. So, and I think the studios knew that this was coming. So I think you're going to see some reality content being pushed out. I think you're going to see licensing of things to be able to put out other types of content, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, writers of woke nonsense aren't worth much. I think everybody can agree that wherever somebody comes from, whatever their background is, if you understand the content you're writing about, it's like writing comics or writing a novel or Harry Potter or whatever it is. If you have writers that know what they're doing, they honor the lore or the history of what they're writing about, and even if they're telling new stories, and they're good at what they do, nobody's going to complain about, somebody being in a role that maybe isn't someone you're used to seeing in your everyday life, right? Like I used the analogy the other day. There's a guy right now driving in the mountains of East Tennessee, or he's in West Virginia, and he's cranking Elton John's Rocket Man. And you would say, do you think that guy is an Elton John fan? Well, he's an Elton John fan because it's good, because Rocket Man's a good song. He doesn't care about the rest. So, I think what we're seeing is people are kind of exposing what's happening behind the scenes with some of these studios, the corporations, and involvement with ESG, and how it's diluted and torched the creative process in terms of people writing good material. But I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing is lack of quality writing and directing and the producing of content. And so if it's good, people are going to come out and say it, and they're going to go see it, or they're going to listen to it, or they're going to read it. And so I think people do get caught up in the the things that maybe are the agendas or things that are going on behind the scenes. But one of the things we've talked about on our channel is I don't care who you cast in a movie or who is the artist that's, making an album or music or whatever, just be good. Be good, and the audience will come to you. That has always been the case. It's been the case forever. And it's movies, TV, books, comedians, music, you name it. You can be as different as you want to be, but if you're damn good at what you do, people are going to say, you know what? They're good. And I may check that out. I may not check it out, but I'm not going to criticize the fact that they're good. And so I think we've gotten to the point where people are stepping into these IPs, and they're there for reasons other than the love of the material. And it shows when the stories come out. When you go, wow, why do they do this? So luckily, we haven't seen that in Game of Thrones yet. I do think, I don't know if we've talked about it. We haven't talked about it on the stream, but people were pretty upset by the end of Game of Thrones, the last 2 seasons. I know that George was not as involved. George R. R. Martin was not as involved after season 5. I still like season 6. I think they knew from George the beats of what was happening. They had enough information to hold season 6 together. But what happened after season 6, going into season 7, season 8? They had the number 1 show in the world, and yeah, Nikki, season 8's not canon. Oh man, I'll talk about that in a second. Dan and David Benioff, and Dan Benioff and David Benioff and Dan Weiss. I always get Dave and Dan mixed up, their last names. Benioff is married to what's her name, the actress. She hasn't been anything lately, but they went in and negotiated with HBO, and HBO's notorious for not paying like top dollar for their talent. They're notorious for that. And so David and Dan went in, and they felt like they had the leverage. And so they said, look, we've got these actors whose contracts are coming up, and they timed it. They went in, they negotiated, and at the time, Richard Plepler, who had greenlit Game of Thrones and had backed David and Dan, he had left HBO. I think he's got his own company now, and he's contracted with Apple. Richard Plepler is fantastic. I would love to see him run Lucasfilm. That'd be a hell of a choice. But Richard Plepler had left, and Casey Bloys came in. So it was that AT&T, the time with all the AT&T merger stuff was going on, and HBO played hardball with David and Dan. David and Dan wanted top dollar. I think it was like a couple $100 million contract they wanted. And they weren't close in their negotiations. So David and Dan said, okay, well, we're going to leave after a certain number of seasons, episodes, and the actors are going to leave with us, because Kit and Amelia, they were all ready to leave when Dan and Dave were leaving. So so was Peter Dinklage. And so at the end of the day, the negotiations stalled. And so David and Dan said, I tell you what, they looked at their contracts, and they found that they were only contractually obligated to give them like 15 episodes. So they ended up doing, or less. So they ended up saying, okay, they were going to give them another season. So they said, we're going to split it into 2. So they did 7 episodes for season 7 and 6 episodes for season 8. And what did you find? You found that they went completely in the opposite direction what they'd done for the previous 6 seasons, where Arya is on the road with the Hound, Brienna's with Jaime, and all the good stuff that happened in those seasons were along the travels of the King's Road and the places where they traveled, where they got to know each other. The dialogue was written so well. All of a sudden, I remember looking in season 7, and you had characters traveling across the narrow sea, and they were going from one place to another in one episode. Wasn't it 8 and 10? No, King's Advisors. There were 7 episodes in season 7 and 6 in season 8. They did 13 episodes the last 2 seasons, and the reason why they did is because that was all they were really contractually obligated to do, and so HBO spread it into 2 seasons. If you remember, George R. R. Martin had said he wanted the show to go at least 10 to 13 seasons. So we would have gotten now it probably would have killed Kit Harington, but we would have gotten and I'll talk about James Gunn in just a second. I like James Gunn. I have someone that I know that knows James Gunn and says he's the real guy. What you see in front of the camera or in interviews is it's who he is in real life. He didn't give a crap if you're famous or rich or poor. Like if he's, I like James Gunn, but so yeah, they at the end of the day, David and Dan, look, what did we find out? They were going to do a Star Wars movie, but of course, like all things with Kathy Kennedy, when she doesn't see something that she likes, she torches it. Matt Tween, thanks for stopping by tonight, man. Good night. We'll catch up, fellow Arlington guy. Good seeing you in Nashville. David and Dan, so the Star Wars thing blows up, and I'm not too torn up about that because I don't know how good of a job those guys would have done with like a 2.5-hour movie. I don't know. But then they strike a deal with Netflix. It was like, well, we could probably pull that up, but it's like a couple $100 million deal, development deal with Netflix. And that's not been one of the things that's made Netflix money. I think Shonda Rhimes, just now started turning a profit for Netflix. They did Ryan Murphy and Shonda Rhimes and David and Dan. They did like three deals that were almost $800 million development deals. Netflix. It's a lot of money. No wonder the streaming providers are losing money. They could bring on someone who knows Star Wars and fix it in a week. I've always said that, like, if you're going to have new leadership at Lucasfilm, you bring in a Richard Plepler or someone, and you tell them, look, we're going to have Doug Chang. We're going to have some of the people on the back end that were linked to the history of Star Wars, and but we're going to bring on somebody that like Christopher Nolan. Just give them the keys and say, look, you can tell a story. Let's see where you take it. A lot of these people, Christopher Nolan grew up a Star Wars fan, just doesn't want to touch it because, he doesn't want, Kathy Kennedy, taking it to her writer's room and just butchering everything. I did hear, I don't know if you guys have seen, and we'll jump back to Game of Thrones here in a second. I did see that that Damon Lindelof, the rumor about Damon Lindelof, why he left the Star Wars thing so suddenly, is based on the content in a book that's coming out. It's bad, y'all. Like, you got to be real racist to support, if it's true, the stuff that's in there, because Damon Lindelof actually cooperated with the writers of the book. The set of Lost, some of the things that happened. Woo! So I think Lucasfilm maybe got their hands on an advanced copy of it or something, and they parted ways with Lindelof. It's not good. If what I read, the excerpts I saw, are true, not good, man. And Lindelof is a hack writer anyway. He's a hack writer. He literally had the very beginning of the story lost and then had nowhere to go with it. I don't like Lindelof. And I said that in one of our videos when they talked about him doing Star Wars movies. I said I didn't think he was ever going to make it. But at the end of the day, David and Dan, they did a hell of a job for 6 seasons, man. I got to give them credit. They kicked ass for 6 seasons. I know Breaking Bad is up there. Breaking Bad is some of the best episodic television that's ever been done. But I put Game of Thrones, the first 6 seasons, up there with anything. Now, I know some people don't like the genre. That's fine. Just like I talked to someone the other day about 1923. I love the show. And Julie Schaffler and Brendan Sklenar as Spencer and Alexandra. They should be in movies tomorrow. She should be cast in Star Wars. Like, they're great. Yeah, Yeah, Nikki. Season 6, I loved it. It was a battle of the bastards. I know some people criticized, season 6 after they knew George was not involved after season 5. But wins a winner. Yeah, battle of the bastards. How could you not love that? I mean, they built that up for 3 seasons. They built it up, Ramsay Bolton, for 3 seasons to finally have Jon Snow show up, and with all the stuff around Sansa, oh my god, man, it was come on, man. The only thing that was a little disappointing was, I wanted to see Jon take out Ramsay, but look, it was fitting. The way Ramsay met his end was perfect writing. Perfect writing. And the win's a winner. Cersei, just badass. And that took 2 seasons. They built that up. Nikki, they built that up for 2 seasons. So, what's up, X-Wing? Hey, if anybody wants to jump in, I can send you the link if somebody wants to jump in. But yeah, so the casting for House of the Dragon looks good. I want to show you guys something else. Again, we're getting into, so I'm going to tell everybody, I'm not going to say what the scenes are, but I'm going to show some photos from On Location, season 2, House of the Dragon, and look away if you don't want to be spoiled, because you may look at something and it may make sense to you. It may not, but I'm not going to say what it is. Can I say what's up for a little bit? Shoot it. Okay, hold on, X-Wing. Let me send you a did I just send you an email, X-Wing? I'm new to this stream thing, man. I can shoot it to you over. Send me your email. Okay. I'm gonna wait a second and let X-Wing jump in before I show the photo, because these are some photos, y'all. This is a guy named Javi Borrega, who has been, I'm thinking that the Red Wedding was great. It's great. The Reigns of Casimir. So I'll get your gift to you, Matt Cave. So let me send X-Wing. Send me your email address, and I'll shoot you the link. Let's see. And I'm gonna do King's Advisors too. I just saw yours, Caleb. So I'm gonna send you the invite too, and we'll get a couple people in here, and then I want to show these photos because it'll definitely spur discussion. Okay, King's Advisors. Okay, I'm gonna send you First Kings. Hold on, guys. Give me just a second. See, this is why I need a moderator. We're going to show from the set of House of Dragon Season 2 in Spain. And we're going to talk about what it means without trying to give it away. So, all right. So I just sent that to you, Caleb. Special Race says Sundowner stream has already been longer than X-Wings. Yeah, what happened to you, X-Wing? I was watching it and you went quiet, and Nikki tried to make you feel better and was like, are you okay? We're here to support you. And then all of a sudden I saw a turtle with an X on it and the stream was over. A little bit of a bummer. You probably had a few more super chats in there. A mental breakdown. I thought you were going to break down tonight. Was it Nick was saying the prequels sucked? Can't believe it. But so yeah, so Nikki, the invite on Twitter Let me have Caleb jump in here, and then I don't know how to do it. Matt Risman says they did suck. X-Wing, when I do my invite, because I need a moderate on this, it gives me the option to send it to an email, but it doesn't give me an option to send it on Twitter from StreamYard. I don't. Maybe I'm not looking at it right, but if you send me your email on, here's Caleb. Let me let Caleb in first. And
what's up?
Hey, bud.
Oh, hang on, I gotta turn you off. I gotta mute YouTube now.
Okay, yeah,
there we go.
I did that a few weeks ago on one, and had the
I think I have to put my headphones on.
That's why we need like Risman and Nikki. We need the pros to
Risman and Nikki.
Yeah, we need the pros to help us with it. Well, I was gonna send the invite to X-Wing, but he said just DM the stream in private and Caleb could send it. Okay. So you know what?
Yeah, I'll send it.
That I can do. So I'm gonna do this right now. Everybody, hold on a second. Give me just a second. As the newbie. I'm gonna send a private chat. Let's see if you get it. So if in the private chat, I just send it to add X-Wing. That should work, right?
Oh no, I'm sending it to him now.
Oh, you sent it to him? Okay. Yep. Cool. Everybody, we'll give him a second to jump in because I want to show this stuff that that was really, really cool. That there he is. What's up?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, that's when you know you're dealing with amateurs, right? You're like, they can't even send me the invite for the stream.
Man, figure it out. What are you doing, man?
All right, so we're gonna show some cool stuff here. So everybody, bear with me. So I'm about to show you, and I'm not gonna say the scenes, but be warned.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. So everybody can see a tragic House of the Dragon. So this is Wiki of Thrones, and they're filming in Spain right now.
It's already there. We already saw it.
Yeah. See, I thought you could see that and it wouldn't give anything away, but so that you'll see the carts. There's an artistic rendering.
Can you go back to the carts?
This looks like cannons. Maybe not.
No, you can see their carts. Yeah, their cart royal procession.
Yeah, I really like that.
And Spain has these built. They filmed some of The Last Jedi, and they filmed Game of Thrones, King's Landing stuff in Dubrovnik, Croatia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also using some of these places in Caceres. See, Risman's going to correct me. It's Trujillo and Caceres, Spain. And the buildings are just so, they perfectly fit.
Oh, incredible. Yeah.
This artwork here is from the Rise of the Dragon book, which shows the beginning of the blood and cheese scene. So I'm going to go through that. I don't want to stay on that too long. For those
blood and cheese?
Blood and cheese. So
you don't know.
So blood is a big violent
kind of red and viscous.
No, man, he's a big Neanderthal violent hired mercenary type guy that the muscle when
his
you need to do damage. His nickname is Blood.
Okay.
And then you have Cheese, who was a rat catcher who knew the tunnels of King's Landing very well. So he's the little minion. He's the guy that
So this is like the Mountain versus Grima Wormtongue kind of thing.
A bit.
Cheese. That's a good analogy. Wormtongue.
Yeah.
And
so
the Mountain,
guy playing Cheese, I think it's an excellent casting job. So I've seen him in his
Mark
season.
Staubert.
Yeah, I've seen him in his season of Line of Duty, and he's very good. He's a little wiry. He kind of you can kind of see stuff going on in his head that isn't coming out of his mouth. I think it's a good casting job.
Okay, guys. So Olivia Cook and Fia Sabin, she plays Alicent. So you see Alicent Hightower right there, and you see Helena Targaryen, and they're obviously wearing black. And
is it just me? I think that Alicent Hightower chick is kind of fine. I don't know why.
Olivia Cook, oh yeah.
She, did you guys see the what was the spy show? Slow Horses on Apple?
No.
She was in
I
season
just
1
got
of that.
Apple TV. I just got it. So I've been watching Ted Lasso episode for episode for episode for episode. I haven't seen it yet.
Bro,
dude, so X-Wing, when you get a chance to watch For All Mankind, it's great. Apple's has some
done
great
a very
stuff.
good job with their content. I've been
really have.
very impressed.
Yeah.
Well, there's a show, Gary Oldman, who I would love to see Gary Oldman play a Sith or something dark.
Oh my God, that man is a king. Yeah.
I mean, why would you not cast Gary Oldman in Star Wars as like a Moff or a Sith Lord or like?
I feel like he'd be better for Empire because he's a little frail, but man, could he be good Imperial?
Yeah, but he's in Slow Horses and his character's so good, and it's basically a version of MI6 that are the screw ups, and they're sent to this guy played by Gary Oldman, who was the top of MI6, but he just tells everybody to F off and doesn't do anything by the book. So he walks around and farts and he's sloppy and like he doesn't give he cares about nothing, but he's brilliant and he knows the game. He dealt with the Russians.
Battlefield Bad Company, but for MI6.
Yeah, it's like the Bad Batch.
That's
Like
awesome.
and she's in season 1, Olivia Cook, who plays Alicent, and she's great in it. The one season she's in, but so there's
that gal who's playing Alicent. Was she the original? Not the original, but was she Wednesday when she was a kid? Or not Wednesday, I'm sorry. Oh my God, Beetlejuice. Was she the young girl in Beetlejuice?
No, I don't.
Because I feel like she looks exactly like her.
She was in the video game movie.
She was in Ready Player One, X-Wing.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that was Winona Ryder. What am I thinking of? I thought she was in Addams Family.
Well, there was a newer Addams Family movie, but she wasn't in it. She was in Bates Motel, the series. She was the girl, the main girl in Ready Player One.
Christina Ricci, that's her name.
Yeah, she does look a little bit like Christina Ricci, but
what's this actress's name?
Olivia Cook.
Olivia
Cooke. She plays Alicent. She's fabulous in House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I think she's done an incredible job.
How do you spell Ricci? Ricci?
CHE. I actually have no idea.
When if anybody wants to see great acting,
twins,
check out Lara Strong and Alicent Hightower in the foot fetish scene in House of the Dragon season 1. It's amazing.
My God.
I see Justin in here. What's up, Justin?
I've never been more uncomfortable watching TV.
But that's why the scene
then
works.
What?
The foot fetish scene in House of the Dragon.
Did my mind block that out? I don't remember that.
It might have.
So there's a character, Lara Strong, that looms large, but he has a club foot, and he's kind of lurking in the shadows at the beginning of season 1 of House of the Dragon. But
yeah.
He gets close to Alicent, and as she starts losing power, and she's thinking she needs allies.
He's the son of
Well, he's House Strong. They have Harrenhal.
Right? Yeah, wasn't he the son of the Hand at one point, and then Yeah,
He was
yeah,
the son of the
Yes.
second hand.
yeah.
Right. So he gets close to her and she needs help. And he basically is like, hey, without saying it, he has a foot fetish. So she takes off her shoes. And
I remember now. Yep. Yeah.
it's great.
Oh, he played that role perfect. You believe that, dude?
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great. That's the casting of House of Dragons great. And
Yeah.
so they're filming this scene, and I don't want to hit on the video here. I don't want to get struck, but you see her wearing the veil.
You're not gonna get struck. You're fine.
You see Helena wearing the veil,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you see the King's Guard, and you see the green. So the House Targaryen, they're the greens. So this battle of the Dance of Dragons is the greens and the blacks. So I don't want to stay on this too long, but you see what you see. So there's a procession.
Yep.
Now this is what I think is great. So
That looks like Italy.
it's amazing. Like, can you imagine being on location and all this is already built? You don't have to change anything.
You would think it almost makes sense to shoot on site, almost like something George Lucas did. I think he went to this weird planet called Tunisia and shot Tatooine there. It would almost make sense that you should shoot there.
If you look at what's going on with Yellowstone, the series in 1923, all on location. You look at House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, like even when they have green screens for one part of it, you look at the location shooting here, and
Yeah,
it's another character.
It's just better. It is. I love that.
the character.
Location is another character.
Yep.
And if you're lazy with that character, like Marvel has been for the last 3
Star Wars
years,
volume.
Star Wars, it just doesn't work.
So there's a body right there. I don't want to stay on that too long. I want to give away, but so these are the shots. So like this is the Red Keep, right?
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, isn't that from Thrones? That's the Red Keep.
That may be from season 1. Well, let's look at this.
That's the Lannister banner.
Oh yeah, good catch.
That's Game of Thrones because that's the Lannister. That's the lion.
Yeah.
But like, so what they're showing is you like
Is this
if you look
Shane?
I think it is. Which was
'Cause when
just
else
my
did we see-
favorite episode
unless
because I wanted to
it's-
see her.
Oh, no, look.
No, it's Euron.
that's
It's
when
Euron
Euron came
coming
in the procession,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and he brought this
the sense or
I
the
gotta watch that episode.
the mother of the sand snakes.
he brought the sand snakes,
That is probably Casterly Rock. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I
2 of
watched
them.
8th season and I watched it once through. So like my Game of Thrones knowledge is minimal at best. And I'm starting to think maybe I should get into it a little bit more. There's so much good stuff here.
Oh, dude, it's
man, I could talk about Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon
So-
for weeks.
so I didn't
That's
want
what Aragon should have been.
Yeah, I didn't want to stay on that
Truly.
photo of the body too long because for people that that's, I mean, it's early season episode 1 or 2, episode 2 or 3, maybe spoilery. So, but there's for those that have read the books that there are 2 deaths around the same time, and we do know that that they had a blue tarp that you could see look like blue spears in it. So there's a dragon's head that a head has been cut off. It's on a cart that's being wheeled through King's Landing. And so we do know that there's going to be 2 major events. So people that read the books, for X-Wing and others that are Star Wars fans, when you talk about, the Battle of, Endor or Yavin 4 or Jakku, like when you hear the term Rook's Rest, people that read the books know
That's the big
they
one.
know who dies there. And
Yeah.
this season 2 is going to have, Caleb, what is it? Is it 10 new dragons?
Damn.
Because the kids.
That sounds right.
Yeah, how many did they show in season 1? 5, 6?
Hers.
It was only 3, wasn't it?
No, we saw.
is-
Oh, you're
we
talking
saw
about
her-
both
4,
combined.
I
both
think.
combined.
I think it was 4.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we
think
saw
it was. We
Caraxes.
saw Rhaenyra's, Damon's, and the one that
Aemond.
what's his name steals.
Yeah, Vagar, who's the biggest
Vagar,
living
Vagar,
dragon.
So I
yeah.
think we only saw
Big
4.
green one with all the ropes and shit hanging
And-
off of him. He was so cool.
And I was talking to one of the artists, the guy that did the Thrawn poster for Nikki. And I told him, I was like, look, season 2, do you do much Game of Thrones stuff? He goes, yeah, I do commission, so I'm starting to. I said, look, season 2, they're about to show the most beautiful dragon, is written in all the books, Sunfire. And he's got orange.
Is
and
that
blue.
who he's singing to at the end?
No, he's singing to.
Is he singing to the cannibal at the end? I forget.
He's singing to.
I have to go read these books now. Damn it!
No,
So this isn't part of the Game of Thrones book series, though, right?
No, this is based off of the House of the Dragon or the Fire
And did
Blood
the
book.
train engineer write these ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote 'em.
That's such a...
Yeah, he wrote. So it's a couple of different books, but it's mainly Fire and Blood.
Okay.
So this is a little different than A Song of Ice and Fire. So it's shorter, right? Song of Ice and Fire, the books he's already put out are like
they're
15
big,
100 pages.
yeah,
they're
big old buggers.
paperweights.
But Fire and Blood is basically when it starts, it's a maester saying it's like a a maester is like the
Yeah, I
doctor
remember the
scientist.
Maesters. Yeah.
The maester says this is the history of the Targaryens as told understood by the maesters, which doesn't mean that it's exactly what happened. It's what's
This
been
is
recorded.
the Silmarillion for the Game of Thrones.
It's
Yeah.
more like your history book that you had in 8th grade that told you the history of the United States.
Yeah, Nikki, you're right. Fire and Blood is a history book written by from the point of view of different maesters. So people,
it's written from the point of view of one. Oh, I guess it is different sections.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Dance of the Dragon one is written from the point of view of the
And
Great
so
Archmaester.
people have made a point of saying, well, why do I want to see Rhaenyra Targaryen? Because Joffrey in Game of Thrones comments about what happened to her.
Mhm.
And I go, wait a second. That may be what happened to her, but it's Joffrey repeating what he has understood to be the history. And Ryan Condrell and George R. R. Martin were very
like the Bible, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's cool about this show is that George R. R. Martin and Ryan Condrell have made a point of saying, you think you know the history, but what we're going to show you on this series is what really happened.
It's weird because kind of what they've done is they've said, we have the way the world's worked for a long time is the book is the canon, but now the TV show is the canon. So the whole thing about the sword, the knife, the cat's paw dagger is canon, even though it wasn't in Fire and Blood. It's something that George apparently he sent Fire and Blood out, did all that, and then went, oh, it'd be really cool. What if I add the cat's paw dagger? You know what? I'll do it in the show. And that's kind of, it's very interesting how they've decided to make the show the true story.
And you notice
instead
how
of looking at the book.
You notice like with the cat's paw dagger, which X-Wing, that's a knife, and it was very mysterious.
A dagger's a knife.
So it's in Game of Thrones. It's mysterious. You don't know where it comes from. You don't know the history of it, but it plays a big part in the events of Game of Thrones. And then it appears in House of the Dragon, and we know there's going to be more to the story around.
Man, a lot of people were
and
angry
we
when
just
they
found
first saw
out.
it.
We just found out in House of the Dragon, as he was looking at it, it had engraving on it about a prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that during Game of Thrones, the series. And so what it makes me think about is, think about that in regards to Star Wars. You and I have talked about the Chaparsnit necklace that Padme wore. And,
or Anduil in Lord of the Rings, there's always there's history behind certain objects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the details, if you're a fan of the content and you get a chance to write something, like what Ryan Condell's doing.
Do me a favor. Don't gain any subscribers. Don't get known by anybody, because this is what's going to happen to your chat. Wow, X-Wing is going to be a fake fan of this now. Wow. Breezy's comics. Oh, fake fan X-Wing. Okay, all right. Special Ray. Oh, King Grifty. Just get used to that shit.
I like Kate Grifty.
Breezy's, I think you're right
It's like,
about
wow,
Aegon.
this sounds interesting. I'd love to read that. Oh, he's fucking fake. Sorry.
Yeah, so look, I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones.
Hate you guys.
I mean, literally, I was at the ICCC in Nashville, and my kids were back at Opryland Hotel because they have an indoor water park, and that's what they cared about. So my wife and kids left.
I would
They
too.
walked into the con, and I want my kids to love Star Wars, but they don't care. So they walked in. They said,
Not your
"Where's
fault."
They said, "Where's the Dragon Ball Z? Where's the Pokemon?" So they left to go back to the water park, and I walked up to the artist that did the comic painting of a picture of Thrawn, and I was talking to her, and she said, they just announced today. I just saw it on Twitter like an hour ago. Amelia Clark and Kit Harington are going to be at San Antonio Comic Con. I go, what? 30 minutes later, I had it booked. That's how I was like, I gotta go. Like, this is,
I mean, come on. What are you gonna do? Not go?
Yeah, of course. If like Nikki, if we love Game of Thrones, the ability to see Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke together, like, come on.
See, I'm more of a Ned Stark guy.
I'm mostly married, but if I saw Amelia Clark, I might be like, hey, what do you think about doing? About Mormonism sounds fine.
Hey, that's always interesting when they open the curtain or whatever to go take the photo with whoever. And you have like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, right? And you literally walk in and you go,
I loved you in that show.
And so we walked in with Ian McDermott and took the picture, and he's like, we said, we have a YouTube channel, The Sundowners. He goes, The Sundowners. And I was like, can I get you to say it? And I was like, nah, they're not gonna let him do that. I swear I was gonna try to get Ian McDermott to say, hello, Sundowners Club.
Oh, you should have 100%.
Oh, he was a really good guy. We went to his panel and he talked. And again, that's another character that, like, he's that his history and where he's from is like, he's the type of character that you would think you would see in a Game of Thrones series. Like Ian McDermott would be. And I actually had read that he was up for the role of the High Septum, right, Caleb?
McDermott?
Yeah, he was being considered for that. I don't know if he turned it down, but
there's a part of me that's just like, shit, I don't want to see him anywhere else. Like I was watching that Templar show. There was a Knights Templar show, and Mark Hamill was like the Grandmaster of the Knights Templar for that.
Yeah, he was
screwed that
he was
show
the
up so
trainer.
bad.
Yeah, what was the hell? What was the name of that?
Nightfall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was.
I really enjoyed
fucking
it.
awesome, but at the same time, it was like, fuck, that's Luke though. Oh, excuse my French. I'm sorry. I'm using.
It was weird when he popped up there in the second season.
He said, "I'll take Eva when she's 60. Eva Green over Amelia. No way.
Ooh,
no way, dude.
Green.
Amelia Clarke. No way.
She's perfect.
Look, I like Eva Green, but not over Amelia Clarke.
Which one's Eva Green? What she's in?
She's Vesper in
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale, yeah. She's also in the second 300 movie.
Wasn't she?
No, I take Amelia.
What was the horror movie she was in? Penny Dreadful?
Yes, yeah.
But Amelia Clarke. So, I know that there's going to be a focus around Secret Invasion, the Marvel Secret Invasion. So there'll be stuff going on there around the con with Amelia being in that. But Kit Harington, I mean, he's going to be getting he'll be getting deluged with Jon Snow questions. So he's got to know that going in.
So I've got a question for you, buddy. Are you like really excited for the Jon Snow show?
Say that 3 times fast.
Because I'm not even a little.
Okay. So real quick, before I address that, because I have never said anything about this in any videos we've done. So Caleb, hold that for a second. Mars Needs Max says sundowning is when Alzheimer's people lose their focus and walk out of the house in the middle of the night. So my mother,
I didn't know that.
yeah, so I knew that. My mother got a form of dementia from diabetes, and she walked out at night. We went through that for about a year, and then she ended up dying about a year later. So I'm very familiar with that.
Damn, I'm sorry, man.
There's also another understanding of the term that deals with the places in the South in the 60s where people of color didn't want to go after nightfall. But let me tell you why I came up with the Sundowners Club.
Dude, I thought this was like a sunset and we're all having a beer together and the sun's going down. Like, holy crud.
There's a movie with Robert Mitchum in the 50s called The Sundowners, and it was a family in Australia that would move from town to town. And my grandfather bought a houseboat, and we grew up spending summers on the Tennessee River, and his houseboat was named the Sundowner. So when I started this channel and I was thinking about all things sci-fi and fantasy, and obviously we'd be talking about things we love like Star Wars and Game of Thrones, we'd be talking about it when the sun went down. And it made me think about my grandfather's boat. And so it's an homage to my grandfather. And that's why I came up with the name the Sundowners Club.
I like that a lot more.
I do
so
too.
I can't help the fact that
it's a lot better.
Well, I like that a lot more than like fading into dementia and losing my mind, which is what I usually feel like talking about nerd culture these days. But yeah.
Yeah. So I can't help the fact that there's other things people have, that they associate it with. But, that's why I was very clear about when I made the logo. You see the moon, kind of a moon at night. So anyway, I wanted to answer that. So Caleb, the Jon Snow series, I'm into it. I'm ready for it because HBO will not greenlit something before it's ready. We know that they've got a pretty good track record, and they're taking a long time to greenlight this thing because they know that no matter what they say, this is not going to be seen as just an offshoot. The minute that first episode hits, the fan base is going to see this as a sequel to Game of Thrones, and they know it. So I believe that it's going to be well written, or it's not going to see the light of day. And I believe that any characters that come in are going to be brought in, in a very natural way that serve the story. Like people that want to see Arya return from the West, she's not going to come in without it serving the story. We're not going to see Sansa or Bran or any of those people without it serving the story. And as much as I would love to see what happened to Daenerys and Drogon flying her to Volantis and she gets resurrected because Jon was resurrected, so why can't she? As much as I would love to see that happen, I think they're gonna tell the story, and it's gonna have George R. R. Martin's blessing, or it's not gonna be on HBO Max or Max. It's not gonna come out. So when they finally do announce it, that's going to send a message to me as a fan that they're not doing this lightly, because unlike Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and House of the Dragon and Aegon, the Conqueror, this is a sequel. Whatever way you want to spin it, this will be perceived as a sequel. And so they know they've got to get this right. And so if they don't feel like the script's where it needs to be, and it's what I talked about earlier, it won't get greenlit. And so I would be concerned, like not interested in it, if it was like Lucasfilm and they were just pumping stuff out that ends up, being rushed, and people that, aren't really fans of the material. Like I was excited for Obi-Wan. I thought it was horrible. I thought that the cinematography was bad. I thought the directing was bad. I thought the acting was bad. And it left a sour taste in my mouth. And then, you have Book of Boba Fett, which was, I didn't hate it, but I was like, this is not necessary. You don't need to see this show. Like, put Boba Fett in Mando. So I'm not excited for the Acolyte. I would be excited for Ahsoka, but I got no reason to trust that they're going to do it right. And so if HBO and Warner's was running the Game of Thrones business that way, I would not be excited about it.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, I mean, but I understand people going, do I want to see Jon Snow in the North and dealing with PTSD? Because that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a guy that is completely traumatized and broken when the series starts. And there's going to be a plot device that's going to bring him back into the fold. And what that ends
would
up
you
being,
think the plot device is?
I don't think the story around the Night King and where it all came from has been solved yet. I
So you
think they
think he's
thought
gonna go north and find like a child of the forest that did it all and learn?
Remember, they never explained this, but remember
they don't explain a lot of things.
In season 4 or 5 of Game of Thrones, we have the White Walkers. They get one of Craster's babies and they bring it to the Night
and they
King.
go to that like crystal cavern or castle type thing.
Yeah, the lands of Never Was or whatever.
Always winter, I think.
Always winter, and so they go in there, never was, and the queen that never was. So they set the baby down, and the Night King touches the baby's face, and the baby's eyes turn blue.
Yep.
I think that was the way for the Night King to achieve immortality, was to have Craster's babies. And so I think what we're going to see is we're going to see Jon Snow. Everybody thinks the war is over, and you've got. And Venger, I'm going to talk about that in just a second because I think that plays into it. I do think we will see Bran in the Jon Snow series. I do think we'll see him.
So this isn't a like baby Jon Snow series.
No, this is basically probably the first shot's probably going to be a continuation of the last shot of Game of Thrones, where he's walking through the wall, or he and Tormund are on horses going through the wall, and they're traveling north to wherever they were going.
Yeah, Jon
Yeah.
Snow. This series is Jon Snow after the events of Game of Thrones, and he's traumatized. He got PTSD. He's just killed Daenerys. He's lost everybody around him, and it's him. So I think they think that the war has been won. But think about it. We watched this series, and all of a sudden, there's a battle at Winterfell, and the Night King's dead, and it's over. And I think that was like.
So you think they would use this to try to repair the ending of Game of Thrones?
I think it's going to be like, oh, by the way.
How do you fix it?
Well, you can't fix it. But
you make Jon Azor Ahai reborn. That's how you do it. You make Jon Azor Ahai reborn, which is what he was going to be. And
it's too deep of a cut for me. I don't know what that is.
The prophecy that everyone kept saying.
Luke Skywalker.
Sure.
Yeah.
You make him, because he was the chosen one until the Battle of Winterfell. He was the chosen one.
And his little sister.
And then she flies through the background and stabs the Night King.
Yeah, the three-eyed raven in the tree was a Targaryen. I believe that, Venger. I believe that.
He was a Blackfire.
Yeah,
he was Brendan Blackfire.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that Jon's going to find out. He's going to be toiling in the north with Tormund, and he's going to find out that that was just a battle, and the larger war hasn't been won. And I think you're going to have Bran as the three-eyed raven, as the king. I think Bran. And I think the show may skip a few years. We may see a little bit older Jon Snow. I think that would make sense. And then you're going to see Bran, who's the king, who isn't ruling. He's sitting in a room and he's traveling back in time. He's the three-eyed raven, and I think he gets trapped. I think he gets lost or something happens. And
so you're saying the I don't remember his name, the Night King, Iceman.
Yeah,
he was Saruman, not Sauron.
And I think it could be, there were rumors, and if you look at the way they looked, they made it look that way. There were rumors that the Night King was Bran, that Bran.
Oh yeah.
was
They-
going
yeah,
to.
he got trapped, and like he went back to look at how, because one of the first memories or one of the first visions that he sees of the past is the formation of the walkers, because the children of the forest apparently made the walkers to fight the first men, because the first men were like cutting down the trees and everything.
Right.
And so they made the walkers to fight the first men, and that's one of the reasons why the men of the north worship the trees, because that's where the children of the forest lived. And so I think the rumor is basically that he goes back to kind of try to see more of what he saw, and he gets lost and isn't able, and he gets like sucked into the Night King.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important scenes in the whole series in X-Wing, if you watched it one time, you may remember this. Bran is with the Three-Eyed Raven, and he's taking him back in time, and he's witnessing things.
This is season 8, like right towards the end, right?
Well, it started in season 5, right, Caleb?
I believe so. Yeah, because
he's all wheelchaired up, and he starts getting visions.
Yes.
Yeah. So
he's not running away from Theon until like the end of season 3.
And Breezy's, I'm going to link that. I'm going to talk about that in a second, because I think that you're right. So there's a scene in Game of Thrones to me that sets it up for. I thought it was going to set it up for how it was going to end, but I think we're going to see it in some point in the Jon Snow series, or where they're going to go eventually in a sequel. And it's the scene where Bran is at the Tower of Joy, and he's with the Three-Eyed Raven, and he sees his father, Ned, defeat the Morning Star, right? He has the fight, and he hears his sister yelling. He thinks they got her captured in the Tower of Joy, right?
Yeah.
And he basically says Rhaegar has fallen, that the trident, right? The wars that you're it. We're here.
I looked on you on the trident, but you weren't. You were nowhere to be
right?
found.
He said I was here where I was supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that scene, you see Bran watching it, and he's wanting to see what happens up in that tower, because we now know that's where Jon Snow's being born.
Yep.
And we learn his name is Aegon Targaryen, and they're going to keep that secret. Well, as Ned Stark kills the Morning Star, well, actually, he doesn't kill him, but so he runs up the steps, and Bran can't help but say, "Father." He yells out to him, right? Is he standing there?
Mm-hmm. And Ned stops and like turns around for a second.
Young Ned Stark turns around, and like he heard him. And the Three-Eyed Raven says, "We've got to go. What are you doing?" Like he pulls him out, right? And that moment is important, because what that moment shows is, up until then, we'd always thought Bran is seeing the past. And he sees moments in time, but in that moment, he affected time. He was there. He heard him.
And that's why Blackfire was so worried.
Yes, because Bran has the ability to go back and have an effect on time, which makes me think that all the stories about who built the wall, Bran the Builder, who built Winterfell, Bran the Builder. I believe Bran.
Oh, that's really gonna annoy me.
Time travel. Oh no! Please don't put that there.
He built it all, and there are some artist renderings, like from the books or something, where the original Bran the Builder. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll talk to some other Game of Thrones experts that know more than me. There's a drawing that was in one of the books of Bran the Builder, the original Bran the Builder, who is in a wheelchair, or he's being carried. He's being carried on something ancient, and so I believe that the sequel story that they're going to tackle, either through the Jon Snow series or something else that will continue the story, will have to do with Bran went back to try to solve something and he got stuck, or he became, there was always the rumor that he was going to go back to stop the Night King. He takes over the Night King's body and he gets stuck there. He becomes the Night King. And there's also the rumors that
okay, here's a question. So if you go back and you get stuck and you do all these things and you build the wall, you do all of those different things as Bran, and then you become the Night King and try to tear all of it down, is that the story?
So if he's the Night King, we don't know, like, where does Bran end? Like, where does Anakin stop being Anakin and become Vader?
Become Vader, yeah.
Like, Bran, because the three-eyed raven told him, don't spend too much time in the past. You will lose yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's a thing.
Yep. Mars Needs Max said, you're looking at it all wrong. The history that takes place was never supposed to happen. Bran is the correction that takes place to change the events. Well, it was always supposed to happen because the wall was built to protect the generations of people from what came beyond the wall.
Yeah.
And why was Winterfell built?
Why is Winterfell so much bigger than everything else?
Yeah, and so I think we're gonna see more of the lore. And look, this part of Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin's world building. This gets into Lord of the Rings type stuff. This gets to where you really have fandom that gets super into
yeah.
Sorry if I'm a nerd out, but I think that's where Star Wars has misstepped. I think Star Wars has that type of lore, and they've gone away from it to become,
I'm not doing that tonight. I'm not doing
part of a
tonight.
corporation, right? So
I came to have fun.
Yeah. So, but so I think that what's really cool about what they're doing right now is we're going to see an Aegon the Conqueror series. So we're going to see his sister having the visions of the doom of Valyria. We're going to see the prophecies, and that's going to tie into the Starks too. So Breezy, you talked about the Starks. The Winterfell crypts were built first. Actually, you're right. So
man, I sat there after watching Game of Thrones season 7, and I went into like 70 hours of YouTube videos on fan theories. And the coolest one, and I've said it before, was the one about that the dead Starks would rise up to defend those of Winterfell that were there. And that's why they're buried with swords. It's not an honor thing, but they're buried with swords so that when the Night King returns, because Bran knew that the magic would not last, that when the Night King returned, there would be protection for those living.
I didn't know this was that deep, dude.
I was so down for that.
So the crypts, so there was always the rumor around the crypts that there were dragon eggs down there.
Mm-hmm.
The crypts actually created the warmth that kept Winterfell heated, where they could live there. And people were thinking in the final season that when the Night King descended on Winterfell, that a dragon was going to be arisen from the crypt. Now that didn't end up happening. Yeah, Vinger, there was supposed to be a dragon under Winterfell sleeping, and that's why it's warm, right? Well, we may not have seen the end of that story. Like, now that did not show up in Game of Thrones, but that whole thing around the Battle of Winterfell, it was stupid. Like, the Night King faces Jon Snow, and he's going to face him, and then he raises the other people up, and then he walks off and leaves Jon Snow.
And then Arya flies through. Arya spends 20 minutes scared to absolute death, as anyone should have been, and then just fly straight through the background to kill the Night King.
Yeah, see, I think a great story arc would be Mars Needs Max talking about Bran was the solution to all the evil that had happened before. What if we get Jon Snow, who's been through all this trauma, everybody around him, he's had to make decisions on who to kill, and people that he loved, and Maester Aemon told him at Castle Black, said, love is the death of duty, right?
Yep.
Ooh, that's
Talk
true.
about it. Talk about a great line, right? Love is the
this
death of
thing
duty.
is this thing that Mars needs Max is saying an actual theory, or is this just something that he's saying?
Well, it's not fact. It's a theory. Marcy's back. That's a theory. It's a good one.
But like, is that just a theory that I haven't seen before, or is it? I guess I should ask him. Is this a theory of yours, or is this something that
well,
I
first
just
of all,
haven't seen yet?
it's not fact because George hasn't written the last 2 books yet.
Well, yeah.
So
He's too busy taking photos in New Mexico with striking writers.
yeah, Venger, duty is the death of love. Best line in the whole series. And we see John at the end knowing who Daenerys is becoming. And people thought, well, he killed her because she burned everybody in King's Landing and she was going to be a tyrant. No, he killed her because she was going to kill Sansa and Arya. He killed her because he knew she was not going to let Sansa rule the North. She was going to have Sansa put to death. And those are his sisters. So that's how I took it, is he did it out of duty as a Stark.
I tell you, if they had made that a little clearer, it would have helped with the ending, but I still hate it.
Yeah, because he had the scene with Tyrion where he's in the jail cell, and it was a perfect moment to say, she's going to kill Sansa, isn't she? She's going to kill Sansa. And then Tyrion would say, well, yeah, and she's going to kill Arya too. And she's going to kill Bran because she has to. Like literally like that was set up for them to cover that, but they didn't. So how fitting would it be that Jon Snow ends up in the North and he gets drawn back into a struggle, and now he's faced with having to handle whatever happens with Bran. And at some point, Jon's going to decide, I'm not going to be the one that's, remember in the first episode of the first season, the man that passes the sentence has to swing the sword.
Yep.
And Jon has lived by that. Like, if I'm going to be the one to make the decision, I have to be the one to swing the sword.
The blood of the first men runs deep.
Yeah, and I think Jon's going to get to the point where he's like, you know what? I'm not killing anymore. Like he's going to end up being the character that says, I'm not fighting anymore, And that's going to be his salvation. That's just my guess, because Kit Harington's already told us in the interview where we find him after the events of Game of Thrones. He's got PTSD. He's like a soldier who's seen the death and destruction and of the people he's loved as well as his fellow men. And so he's like, he's completely broken. And that's interesting to me. He said, I find that interesting to explore that. And so that's where the series is going to start. And you're right, Mars, George R. R. Martin, huge fan of Tolkien, but he's criticized Tolkien a little bit in some interviews. Like
how?
I think George does not have some of the religious faith, I think, that Tolkien did. I think George is a little bit more agnostic and
likes
a little bit
trains.
Yeah, he's
I'm sorry, I can't stop with that.
This is how stupid I was. When I first saw George R. R. Martin, he was wearing the hat. And I thought it was like, when he talked about the engineering, I thought it's like a train hat. And I didn't realize
he looks like a train conductor.
Well, then I realized, he's like it's a longshoreman's cap, right, Caleb? He's from New Jersey.
Oh yeah, I guess I could see that.
It's a longshoreman's hat because is he a huge Jets fan?
No, I think he likes
he likes them both.
If I remember correctly,
he likes both the Giants and the Jets.
Yeah, he was like a train. He liked trains a lot.
Yeah, because he'll sit there in his blog. He'll go, the Jets won, the Giants lost, so it's kind of a push for me as a New Yorker.
But he lives in New Mexico.
He lives in guy up there.
He's a New Yorker.
No, he's from New Jersey.
Oh, that's worse.
Hey, he's a New Mexican now. He lives in New Mexico. But yes, I think that's where he kind of separates from Tolkien a little bit. I saw an interview. I'd have to go dig it up where he wasn't bashing him because he loves Tolkien. There's obviously inspiration there, but I think it's like
Yeah.
when you hear
Why would
Lucas
you?
talk about Kurosawa or Joseph Campbell. Look, I mean, I've got this on my desk right now. Look, I read this like once a year. Joseph Campbell, The Hero of a Thousand Faces. You know, that's modern myth right there. And so George, I think one of the interviews I saw, he was just talking about how he differed from Tolkien in the fact of, you know, George got more into the history and like what's the reality of the mythology of the past. Like it was brutal. People raped and killed and like stuff like the brutality of man. And so George was interested in that. And whereas Tolkien, you know, he mythologized it, right? And
Mhm.
but I
Well,
definitely think
it's why Tolkien didn't write fight scenes. He didn't write battles.
Whoa.
No, if you go and read Lord of the Rings,
Helm's Deep.
the Battle of Pelennor Fields is like 3 or 4 pages, and it's really just kind of a description of what happens.
Yeah, at least Tolkien finished his book. You know, the difference though
That's
is, and I do agree, but you know how much money they've thrown at George R. R. Martin in the last 8 years, 10 years. He's kind of a victim of being that writer that is so successful that how do you tell people no? They're flying you to London, you're speaking at events, you're being asked to write scripts for every studio out there. You get locked into a contract with Warner's. You know, I mean, look at the shows he's involved with. I mean, like, you know, I think it's hard because, you know, yes, he needs to finish Winds of Winter. I think what's going to happen is Winds of Winter is going to come out. And then I think he's going to have someone that is kind of a protege that takes the major beats for the last book, A Dream of Spring.
Can't wait for a Dave Filoni of George R. R. Martin. Yeah.
Well,
There's going to be. He's told us
one
for like years that if he dies, because
If
I think right around, right around season 3 or 4, there was a lot of worry because it'd been a while since the book last book had come out by then, that he was going to die before the next books came out. And he said many times, you know, there are 3 or 4 people that know exactly how everything's supposed to end.
Right.
They've got the note cards, they've got the string, all that. They have the maps. If I die, they'll finish the books.
dude, he's like, hopefully, I'm gonna finish the books. If not,
he's actually lost some weight. I'll give that to him. He's probably lost like 50 to 60 pounds since he started like having to actually do stuff.
Yeah, he's not gonna live long if he's.
Yeah, Marsney,
sticking
don't
with
I
what
wish
he's
he was
got.
writing for Star Wars? No, until they have new leadership, I don't want him anywhere near it.
Well,
Because-
no, until he finishes the book.
Yeah, why don't you let
Yeah.
him finish one universe?
Yeah.
And then we can wait another 16 years for him to write a 6-episode series.
He has lost weight. But you know, the last interview I saw with him, he's sharp. Like he can take you in any area. The interviewer was talking about various aspects of the characters and the stories and the timelines. And George corrected him a couple of times. I mean, like he's lost none of his mental faculty, but I just think that he's put himself in a corner where everybody expects that a book is going to be at least 800 to 1,000 pages. He said the other day that Winds of Winter is going to be 1,500 pages.
Nope, not
I'll
interested.
read it.
I'm good.
It's
Guys, I got a
release it.
boot scoot boogie.
All right, but hey, thanks, X-Wing. Thanks for stopping by, bud.
Sorry, I gotta leave, but thank you for having me on. You guys might have inspired me to actually get these things, do some audiobooks.
I'd highly recommend the audiobooks. Roy
Yeah.
Dotrice reads very well. The only problem is he died 2 years ago. So who's
semi-problematic, yeah. But-
who's gonna read the next ones?
all right, guys. Have a good night. Thank
too.
you, everybody here in the Sundowners community for having me on, and I will see you guys later.
Amen.
All right, X-Wing, see you, bud. Yeah, we're gonna we're gonna wrap up in a couple of minutes. I wanted to go 2 hours, and we got about 10 minutes left. So, yeah. So that's. I mean, we all want him to finish the story, and I had a theory a couple of years ago that he got sideways with David and Dan, and he was like, "Let's let them finish the show." And then when I release my last 2 books, it'll be completely different than how they ended the show. And that's
Yeah,
his way of
I wouldn't be surprised.
and I still think that's going to happen. I still think that there are going to be a lot of interviews where people come out afterward and they go, "Well, George told us this." And George's like, "Hey, things changed. This is how the book ended."
Yeah.
Like, it's so I do think that that we're gonna see wins a winner. I think he said, Kings, tell me if I'm wrong. I thought I'd seen where like he's down to the last couple hundred pages.
Yeah.
But-
So the last
But
thing
you never
I
know what to
remember-
believe because he said that 10 times.
Yeah, the last thing that I remember is that he said he's got basically everyone done. So let's see. Okay, so apparently George said in December of last year that he had about 500 pages left to finish. And the thing that I think I saw probably in late March was that he had finished everyone's POVs except one, and that he was having trouble writing a specific character. And I have a feeling that that's going to wind up being the Targaryen that most likely isn't a Targaryen. And it's because he's trying to figure out how to kind of end that storyline. Because I feel like that's the weirdest storyline of all of them. Because it just pops up in what, the 4th book?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
someone's, who was
real
it that said
quick,
on here?
I do want to say it's been 4,341 days since the Dance with Dragons.
Oh my God.
Or 11 years, 10 months, and 16 days.
Yeah. Young Griff, Lady Stoneheart. I know.
Yes.
It's and
So
I
feel like Lady Stoneheart's an easy thing to figure out. All you do is you need to get her.
He was frustrated that they left that out of the show. That's where they started to get sideways.
Yeah. So I think if John comes back, if he reanimates John, I think the easiest way to do it is to bring Lady Stoneheart north, and you get this kind of thing where Catelyn Stark realizes the importance of Jon Snow because she's a little mystical now. She's not just a person. So she releases the life that what's his name gave her to him. And I don't think he ends up being Mr. Stoneheart. I don't think he ends up being as like evil and non-human as she is, but I think something's going to be missing from him. Whether it's as dark as I think some people think it will be, I think that's going to be the main question.
Yeah, I think that I think we're gonna get some potential news in July. Maybe Aegon the Conqueror series. It may be.
I have a feeling we won't hear anything about new series until after the strikes are over.
Yeah, I
it
think
seems to me that if HBO announced a new Game of Thrones series, that would just give the writers and directors more power.
Well, they can announce it's see, HBO never came out and said anything about Jon Snow, so they could just say it's in development.
Oh, true.
They could make the announcement it's in development, and then Kit Harington could say, "Yeah, it's we're working on it. I can finally tell you that it's in development. We're working on it. I'm excited." Like he hasn't even been able to say anything. All he's had to say is can't talk about it. I have nothing to talk about. So it's a way for them to make an announcement. Hey, Kathy Kennedy just did it. She just walked on a stage in London and said, "Hey, here's 3 directors, 3 movies that I guarantee you 2 of the 3 are never going to happen."
Of those, I know you want to end real quick, but of those 3, which one do you think is the most likely to happen?
The Rey one?
Really? I think it's the Jedi one. because I think if I was them, I would go, okay, let's see how far away from Skywalker we can get and still be successful.
I think that the Rey is just because they put her
on
they put her on the stage.
Yeah.
But I would look at this point. I wouldn't put it past Kathy Kennedy. But well, so this is our second Game of Thrones stream, and we're going to be covering a lot of stuff. We're going to have. I'm working on getting some people on that are involved in Game of Thrones world.
Oh,
it should be pretty cool. And I'm hammering that out. I initially got some pushback, and then I found a few potential openings to get it done. So when you're a newer channel and they look at your subs and they look at, they kind of pass on you. So I got a way around it for at least two people that would be really cool in the Game of Thrones world. But real quick, I'm gonna do a giveaway. How much is this? $160, Kings?
I mean, I think so.
So everybody know what this is? Game of Thrones, the complete series, trading cards, volume 2. There's an autograph card in every pack. So what this looks like is, I'll give you an example. Some of them are not major characters, but there were something.
None of mine were major.
So this one that I got in a pack was autographed by Joseph Quinn, and he says House Stark. He played like a minor role. Didn't even know it. But you know why? If you look online, this card is worth money because Joseph Quinn plays Eddie on Stranger Things.
Oh.
And so Eddie became an overnight star. Joseph Quinn became an overnight star as Eddie. He's the one that played the Metallica solo in the last episode or second to last.
Oh, I never watched it.
And he's become big. So this card is worth more than 2 or 3 of these boxes.
Oh my gosh.
So you never know. I mean, I've got Old Blood here. I've got Rickon Stark. So
man, I got
and then you talked about these metal cards.
Yeah.
So
I got Oberyn Martell for that.
Yeah, I got Thoros Amir. This card is like shine. It's metal.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So you get it's really cool stuff. And again, Caleb, Kings Advisors will tell you, Breezy, you can attest to this. If you show up on this stream, you're eventually going to win stuff. So if you don't win something
100%.
tonight, you're going to win it next time. Venger, you've won stuff too. So people keep showing up and create my core audience. You're going to win stuff. So tonight, this goes to Special Ray. So Special Ray, Indy 5 is going to break my heart. You can see that I've got the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail behind me, and I'm paying to go see Indy 5. I'm going to go see it. I already know what's going to happen to the movie. I've talked to someone who saw the movie, who's seen the movie. It's not as bad, from what I'm told, as what we thought it was going to be. And then
That's
Jonathan Rhys-Davies, I talked to him at ICCC. He plays Salah. And you know what he told the panel?
What?
He said, it's better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. He did not say it was better than the trilogy. He did not say it was a great movie.
Hard.
He said it's a really great script and it's got a great director. So take that for what it's worth, that Jonathan Rhys-Davies and anybody that was at that panel can tell you he said that. He did not say it was a great movie, but that it was better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So I'm going to go see it, and it's going to break my heart. I know it is. But
yeah,
Special Ray, you got this Game of Thrones set. You can either leave it unopened and keep it for years or something, or you can do what King's Advisors did, and you can open it up. So I'll send you something on. Are you connected to me on Twitter? If you are, follow me on Twitter. Send me a DM, just like Venger has done before, and Breezy's and Mr. Bubba and Kings.
And if not, I
Sith
do
Apple.
think both of y'all are in EBN's Discord.
Yeah. So all you got to do is
y'all could DM each other on there.
Find me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter under the Sundowners 1. So at the Sundowners 1. And send me a your address in Kentucky, and I'll send it to you, and we'll go from there. And then Mars Needs Max, Sith Apple, everybody who has not won something yet, keep showing up to these streams. I know who's won and who hadn't. I'll make sure you get something. I'm trying to give stuff away every stream. So, and we had some videos we were going to upload this week. I may still do that. We had a few hiccups, but we did 3 videos. We did one around 1923 and 2 around Game of Thrones. But the 2 around Game of Thrones were similar stuff that we covered tonight. But we'll see.
I would just upload them anyway because
I'll probably do it.
Yeah.
I had a long week on the road for work, and we had some technical things going on with the videos, and then anyway, so yeah, we may put them out. We had 3 videos; they run about 10 minutes each. We haven't done a whole lot of the videos lately because we're trying to build up our setup for streaming.
Yeah.
So that's why you've seen the streams once a week, but we're about to ratchet back up our production. We'll probably do 2 to 3 videos a week and 1 stream a week. And you'll see us split it up. We'll have different content. We'll have the Game of Thrones stream consistently, and we'll have the 80s stream consistently. And we'll have some stuff around indie and around Star Wars and stuff like that. So we'll be here to cover it. So thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. We're going to get out of here. It just hit midnight in Tennessee, so I'm going to call it a night. Kings, anything you want to say? You want to give any shout-outs for anything before we go?
Subscribe to the channel. We have a new bi-weekly live stream called the Curia Regis, which is Latin for the Royal Council, and we're going to be doing that every other week. So the next one should be in 4 days.
Gotcha. Good stuff. I'm very bad about asking people to subscribe. I do the Tube Buddy for everybody that knows about that, and it says you have to ask people to subscribe. So I got to be better about that. I'll be better as far as asking people to subscribe and leave comments.
I forget all the time.
Haven't been doing it long enough. I gotta get better at the.
And real quick, if anyone is subscribed, either of us, make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube's going through and kind of unsubscribing either accounts that haven't, like, comment, shared, all that kind of stuff that you hear everyone say at the end of live streams, or hasn't been part of the community. So for instance, if let's say Sundowners, let's say you're a sub of mine, and if you miss a month or something of stuff, which is easy to do with these smaller channels, your YouTube's going to unsub you from me because they think you're either a robot or something like that. So it's very weird, but it's one of the things that YouTube does. So just, and honestly, that's just kind of a call to make sure you're sub to everyone that you think you're sub to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird, man. The YouTube game, but, but look, we're here for the long term. We're going to put out content, and we're going to focus on the things we enjoy, and support the channels in our community of the other channels that we enjoy. So we appreciate everybody stopping by. We appreciate Echo Base for giving us a shout out as they wrapped up their stream tonight. We really appreciate those guys, Coach and Nick and Rissman and Nikki and X-Wing.
They're so fun.
Yeah, so we're excited to grow the community, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. And make sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, tell us what you liked, and let us know if you're watching this video live or if you're watching it later. Let us know what you want to see. If there's something different you want to see in these streams around Game of Thrones, let us know, and we'll make sure to cover it. All right, everybody, have a good one. See ya.
Peace out.